Greetings and salad dressings to everyone. This is Scott at the Game Audio Institute, and we are now at part 5, which I hope to be the final version of this ongoing project of doing footsteps for a third-person controller. So we're gonna go right into where we last left off, basically, right? So where we last left off was we were inside Unity, right here. And we had just basically tested out our surface, and we have our switching basically happening because our colliders are touching. And so that basically makes it all work, essentially. So just a little bit of review and a little bit of a further explanation, just sort of talking about one thing that I didn't mention last time. So when we look for sort of things that are happening that are here, notice that I said current surface dot transform.tag. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. So a transform is basically the three-dimensional position, rotation, and scale of every object inside the game space. And it's kind of a unique identifier. It's kind of similar to game object, but even more specific. So no two game objects can ever have the same exact transform. So therefore, the idea is that, a transform is kind of a unique identifier for that thing. It's also sort of a generic identifier for that particular object or thing or place or whatever. So in this particular case we're saying current surface.transform. And then from transform, we can look at other parameters, other characteristics. In this case, that's going to be the tag. I believe we could have probably gone from just collider.tag, but just in case, this is more explicit and more correct, if you will. So that's what this transform is mean. And transform is used a lot, basically, in order to sort of find other components on a particular game object or something like that. Once you have the transform, you can go and get components for that transform, basically. Anyway, all right, so let's just talk about what the next step is going to be. So the next step needs to actually be returning a thing, okay? So let's just go to that last thing here. So basically, just looking here, a little bit out there. Okay, so we're basically returning a list of audio clips, okay? So that is going to be what we're going to cover right now. And there's a little bit of background to have to sort of put in, but we'll get you there, no problem. All right, so here's the deal. Whereas everything else that we've covered so far is called a void, okay? That means it returns nothing but itself, or really nothing at all, essentially. So in other words, now what do I mean by return? Well, we're about to see. So what we're going to do is we are going to make ourselves a variable, and that variable is going to be called an audio clip. So we're looking for an audio clip. So this is what I mean by return. In this case, if I say that something is an audio clip beforehand, remember, I'm actually defining a variable, just exactly as I was defining a variable up here, public audio source or whatever, or, if I type animator, now I'm typing audio clip, but I'm declaring it as a function. So this is a little bit tricky. So basically it means that I'm going to call this an audio clip list, because that's what I want. Audio clip list is going to be called, I'm pretty sure, let me just make sure if I've got my information happening. Yes, it's called handle surface. So we're going to call this handle surface. Okay, handle surface, and there's no input variables. Okay, that's what you put inside the parenthesis right there. Okay, we're not doing that. We're just calling this audio clip surface. Now that means that whenever you declare a variable, you're going to have to return something, no matter what, and it has to be what you're going to basically pull. So now what you're going to do is you want to say here, audio clip list, remember the square brackets, and you're going to call this clip list. You can call it whatever you want it to, But we're basically also going to declare it as null. It's important to sort of give it some sort of value, and null is a good starting value. It's not great, but for audio clips, we can do this, at least at this point in time. If we don't do this, it often has errors and won't work correctly. So we have to at least give it some kind of value before we then start assigning a different value to it. So here's what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to say if surface equals tile, this is where we're actually going to look for our surface and compare our surfaces values. Then we're going to basically say, right here, we're going to say clip list equals stone steps. So what that happily means is basically I'm copying stone steps over to my variable called clip list. So I've declared a list of audio clips called clip list. I've currently called it I've said null, so it's not. There's nothing in it at the moment. But now at this point, if the surface is tile, the clip list has now gone over to the stone steps variable. Actually, did I call it stone steps or tile steps? I called it tile steps, so I should call it tile steps because that's what I'm calling it. Sorry. Looking at a slightly older script here. So clip list equals tile steps. Now I'm going to go. Now one thing to mention, you notice how I didn't have to put anything inside the curly brackets. If you only have one thing that you want to have happen as a result of an if statement, you can just create one line only, and that's okay. But if you want more than one thing to happen as a result of matching a condition or whatever, you want to basically put that inside the parentheses. In general, it's not a bad idea to just get into a habit of putting things in parentheses anyway, but there you go. So we're going to call this clip list equals tile steps, and then we're going to say else if surface, and you could do it differently if you wanted to. There's lots of different options, but we're going to do it more explicitly like this. There's a couple of different ways to handle this, especially if you get lots of different choices, but this is fine for now. And so in this case, we're going to call this clip list is going to equal the metal steps. All right, so that is basically the deal. Now I need to return a variable. That's what is all this is all about. If you declare some other thing other than a void, you have to basically have it return something, and you do that with the keyword return. So you have to say return. What are you going to return? So in this case, what we're doing is we're already taking our clip list variable and we're assigning it different values depending on whether or not our surface is this or our surface is something else. So in this case, we're going to return clip list. If we don't, by the way, put return in there, at least return null, then we get nothing, and our script will be broken and it won't work. So you have to put something after return. And it ideally has to be of the type that you're going to return. So you can't return 0 because 0 is not an audio clip. But null can technically be a value for any variable. Anyway, if you have to do that. So in other words, if you want your script to compile at all and you're be able to run your scene, you definitely need to make sure that you're returning null at the very least, even if you're testing things out. So you need to make sure that at least null is going to be used in that case. But of course, in this case, what we're doing is returning clip list, and that is going to basically work. Now, let's go back over to the other part where we're going to play our footstep. And now what we can do is we can start actually saying what we want to have happen here with all of the different stuff. And there's all the stuff about float speed and all this sort of kind of stuff. And we can say, we could do all kinds of stuff, but we're gonna leave this out because this is happening all the time. So we don't need to have it printing all the time. But we do want to declare an audio clip. That's what we want to do. We want to declare an audio clip list here. But we're going to call this an audio clip list, and we can use the same variable, by the way, here, even though it's not, because it's not in the same function. If I made it global, then yeah, we could potentially have a little bit of a problem or whatever. In this case, what we're going to call this is clip list is equal to, handle surface, which is our function that was going to return ourselves a clip list. So here we go, handle surface. And it has to be done with whatever variables are input, in this case, nothing. So we're just going to basically stick this thing, nothing between those parentheses. If you had inputs into the handle surface function, then you need to basically put those in the parenthesis there. But we didn't have anything, so we don't have anything. So we're good. Now we need to basically declare an audio clip that's step, called step. Okay. And yeah, that basically means that we're going to call this and then call this clip list. And of course, our whole thing from before, random.range 0 clip list.length. If I've got this correct, I need to put a comma over there, basically. Yep. And then a semicolon at the end. So that's it, basically. And then we're going to say foot source, not play one play, but play one shot. And their thing is going to be step. And that is it. All of that should basically work. Now we have to put all of our variables in place and everything and make sure it all works, basically. So hang on for that. Alrighty-roo. All right, so now let's go check this out. On our player footsteps, we need to put ourselves in some tile steps and we need to put in some metal steps so that we've got some stuff going on. And I've got a few little steps that I can drag in. Remember, good idea to lock that there inspector so you can drag a bunch of sounds in there. So we're going to do that. We're going to say, here's our tile steps. List is empty. Make sure you put it right there. And that we'll put those tile steps right there. And then we're going to say, well, our hard metal steps. And we'll put those in here like so. Now we've got that all working. I think we are generally fine. The surface is going to be whatever that surface is going to be filled right there. Our third-person controller is automatically determined by the script at the start, so we don't really even need to fill this in. Honestly, it didn't need to be public in that case. But, you know, that's the idea. We get to watch it change if we want to. And we do need to probably take out our audio source and have it not play that audio clip in there. So we'll just hit the delete key and we'll be therefore good to go. We could then raise our volume back up to 1. I was taking the wood sound down a little bit because it was annoying. Anyway, so the deal is, I think that at that point we should be in a good testing situation. So let's go check her out. Alrighty, here we go. There we go. And we're running and walking and whatever. So, okay, and there. Now we're going over here. Okay, that pretty much does it, basically. All right, folks, that pretty much wraps up our 5-part coverage of the footsteps, essentially. So I hope this has been pretty helpful. We're gonna maybe do another one, but won't be like, it'll be more like called extending footsteps or something like that. So the idea is that you could then make more things happen. Make it more complex if you need to. For example, this doesn't keep in track of left and right footsteps. It doesn't do pitch randomization. It doesn't do volume randomization or any of those other kinds of fun things. You can definitely do that kind of stuff. We'll show you, I think, a little bit more about how we can do that next time. But for now, I hope this helps you get your game audio on, and we will see you again. Make sure you like and you share and you subscribe. And if you want the access to the scripts or anything like that, we can give you that if you sign up for our Patreon. And anyway, I hope this helps you out, and we'll see you again in the next one. Take care. Bye.